cheap Chinese... Oh, hi. You're not supposed to be here yet. You're early. Okay, give me 5. I'm gonna go get ready. Right, that's better. Welcome to Cars and Stuff, the YouTube channel where we talk about, well, cars and stuff. We're not sure what the stuff is yet because this is our first pilot video, but if you like, subscribe and maybe drop in the comments what you would like to see. You might be part of what we review next. But on this episode, we will be reviewing a car, the cheapest crossover SUV that we can find in Qatar. It happens to be made in China. So, without further ado, shall we go? One of the big surprises about this car, as most small crossovers live best in the city, is that it's actually most at home on the highway. We don't have too many of them in Qatar, but it's quiet, relatively, for a vehicle in this segment. It's comfortable, and it's actually, considering how underpowered it is, far more at home, cruising at 100 on the highway, than it is driving around in the city, which is where you would expect it to live, in the city. But it actually works better here. It's got cruise control, which is not something you generally find in a car of this segment and this price. So it really is more of a highway cruiser than it is a city car, which has kind of been the surprise of the week, really. Claimed fuel economy is around 7.5 litres to the 100 or 13 k's to the litre, which is pretty good for a vehicle of this size and weight. My cameraman Jess has been driving this for the last couple of months, and he's been averaging, according to the trip computer, around 9 litres to the 100 or 11 k's to the litre, which is really, really good considering that it's mostly city driving. But it is really underpowered. So if we were to up the engine size, it would probably be a little bit less economical, but it would be a hell of a lot nicer to drive. So I drive this car's big brother as a daily driver, the GS4, which has a 1500 turbo engine. And I can't help wishing that GAC chose to put that 1500 engine into this car, because it would make a huge difference to how it drives. And it would actually be a proper little SUV with that motor in it. It would then probably also need all-wheel drive, because even the GS4, which is bigger and heavier than this, spins its front wheels all the time. Right, now this is something that happens really often to you in Doha. If you come up to a traffic light, the light's green, can you make it and make the U-turn? Which means you have to drive up to it quite fast, slow down, and then make the U-turn. I think we're gonna crack it. Yes, we are. I think we made it. We made it on the inside lane, which is a solid effort for a car which is front wheel drive and doesn't have a particularly good turning circle. So I think that was a win for the GAC. It can definitely do a U-turn. Let's go, let's go, let's go. You can do it. Right. Something else that we really struggle with in Doha is, what do you do when there's a Land Cruiser behind you? Now the good news is it's daylight, so we don't have to worry about being blinded by the Xenon Land Cruiser headlights being flashed in our eyes. But we do have to be able to get out of the way and get out of the way quickly. So can we change lanes if there's a gap before we get killed by a Land Cruiser? Let's find out. Okay, there's a Land Cruiser coming up behind us at pace. We put our indicator on. There's no Nissan Sunnies. I think we can make it. Let's get out of the way. Whew. I think we survived that. Now we're going to do the infamous roundabout test. For those of you who are new to Doha, we used to have a lot of roundabouts here, and Ashghal is doing their level best to get rid of most of them. But it used to be a life and death situation trying to get out of a roundabout. You needed to have a certain amount of power to be able to exit a roundabout without getting killed by the bus that was turning left in the outside lane. So we are going to do, very safely I might add, without a bus, a roundabout test. So if we go into the roundabout, we need to come out of it. We're going to imagine that there's a bus that's about to take us out. Can we make it out of the roundabout alive? We're coming up to a roundabout. There's fortunately no buses. The test still applies though. We want to go straight. Imagine there's a bus on our outside. What's it going to do? Is it going to turn left? Is it going to turn left? Yes, it is. We're going to get out of that lane and we're going to floor it, and we made it. Looks like the GAC can safely get you out of a roundabout. This is another really important feature of any car, particularly a small crossover or SUV that you're driving in Qatar. Can you get onto a pavement? We all know there's a massive parking issue everywhere in Doha, and we often have to park on pavements. I don't recommend doing that because it's not legal, but it's still an important feature of a car. So can we drive onto a pavement? Here we go. Front wheel up, other front wheel up. We haven't bottomed out. This is good. Get both the back wheels on, and we are illegally parked. The GAC can definitely climb a pavement. So right, another important test when living in Doha for any car is, can you go shopping? And the first thing you have to do when you go to a shopping mall in Qatar is assume that there's no parking. So can the GAC GS3 find a parking space? This is more about parking karma really than anything to do with the car. Right, here we are at Villaggio Shopping Mall on a Friday at 20 to 11. Now, in an effort to give the GAC something, I'm fairly certain that its parking karma is going to be good at this time on a Friday. Look at them all. I think we can safely say that the GAC GS3 Turbo can find parking on a Friday at 11 o'clock. Here's another really important feature that you need on a car in Doha is, can you skim over speed bumps? So we've got quite a decent sized speed bump coming up. I'm doing 40 kilometers an hour. What's it gonna feel like? Oh, it's a big one. Oh, yeah, we almost bottomed out there in the suspension at the back. So I think you can consider your limit for going over speed bumps in this car to be around 30 kilometers an hour, which is not bad. I'll give that a pass. I'll give it a 6 out of 10 for going over speed bumps. This is no Baja 1000 vehicle or a Ford Raptor SVT, that's for sure. And what you get is a 1300 turbo with 137 brake horse and about 202 newton meters of torque, which on paper seems like more than enough for a small compact SUV. I'm not sure where it goes wrong, but this thing is slow. I mean, it is painfully. You will see in future frustrating clips how painfully slow this car is. But besides that, you actually get a really nice little highway cruiser. You get a partial leather interior. You get all the various technology heavy things that you would come to expect from the Far East cars at a relatively low cost. It's really not a bad prospect. We'll get into a few more details later, but for the most part, this is not a bad little car. I've been driving it for about a week now, and I'm not seeing any glaring faults besides the lack of power. And I keep having to remind myself that this is a very, very cost-effective vehicle. So as we carry on building highways in Qatar, being able to overtake at 100 odd kilometers an hour is going to become important. This is where this car really, really falls down. I can put my foot flat sport mode on the gearbox and it just goes nowhere. It just makes a lot of noise. So being able to overtake vehicles on the highway is a bit of a no-no. Fortunately, all of our highways are bi-directional, so it's really not the end of the world. But if you're considering buying this car somewhere else, it's an important consideration. It just does not have enough go. So we have been enjoying the highways, but the speed limit's 120 kilometers an hour, right? But at 120 kilometers an hour, this car starts binging, and it doesn't stop. And that is a big, big no-no. So what you have to do is go underneath 120, because you don't want to break the law and go over the speed limit. I will also add that when I checked on the GPS, we're only actually doing 110. That is infuriating. Right, we've come to the Lusail Raceway abandoned parking lot on a very quiet Saturday where there are no cars, and we can safely do a couple of road tests that we wouldn't be able to do on the road. So the first one of those is a 0 to 100 test, which, to be honest, is frankly ridiculous in a car like this, but we're going to do it anyway. So here goes, 0 to 100, and we'll put it in sport mode, and let's see what it can do. making a lot of noise. And there it is. 0 to 100 in how many? I can't tell now. So 0 to 100 in 16.3 seconds and quarter mile in 22.5. It's not exactly great, but I warned you it was slow. I did warn you, like really slow. So we've done one brake test and it was very successful, because I think 50 kilometers an hour is actually a little bit slow, but that's probably what you would be driving if you're driving around in the city. So now we're going to do it again, this time from 80, because that is quite a common speed limit that we would find in Doha as well. So let's get up to 80 kilometers an hour, and then we're going to do the brake test again. My GPS is right. We're going to hopefully not mess this up this time, and we are at 80 there, and a full emergency stop now. Oh, okay, I didn't really smash it, but it seems to be pretty good under braking, under really hard braking. I'm going to go out and pace off exactly how long this was. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Yeah, 36 of my paces is around 35 meters, which is really not bad from 80 kilometers an hour. I think you can safely avoid most taxis when driving in Doha. So let's talk interior styling. I mean, the front end's really not bad. I actually kind of like it. It's got nice aggressive headlight clusters. These vents over here and then this honeycomb grille is actually functional. It's letting air into the radiator. Here it's blocked off. What really bothers me though is the panel gaps. So if you want to come have a look at this, look at the size difference between this panel gap over here going all the way to this side. And there's a big misalignment here in this chrome. Now I'm not sure if it's meant to be like that, but now we are starting to see some of the build quality issues that you get with a 51,000 real car. Right, moving down the side, they put a really interesting crease down the side door here. It starts at the bottom, and I'm assuming it's to make the car look a little bit more interesting. And it goes up there, but to me, it looks like I drove into something. I keep seeing it and imagining that the car is actually damaged. But the side profile is improved a little bit with this floating roof design here. This black panel that they put in here is to achieve some kind of floating roof exercise. But on the whole, I think it actually is not a bad looking car. The rear end is, well, the rear end is the rear end. These cheap plastic chrome effect surroundings around these little spotlights are horrific and tacky. But the rear light clusters are nice. They create a little figure of 8 design in there. We've got some parking sensors that are incorporated quite neatly. These ones are color coded. This one's color coded in the black bumper. And then this gray silver fake split rear diffuser is, well, just unnecessary. So all round it's a car, right? It's a boxy, chunky, crossover SUV thing, which is what people like these days. It's not to my personal taste, to be honest, but it could be worse. Right, interior. Now this is where you would really expect a 51,000 real car to start falling down. And to be honest, it does. The plastics are really cheap on the door cards. The steering wheel feels cheap. The dashboard, all of the doors, and they all feel really cheap. Some of the places we've got some nice metal finishes here on the door handles. This locking mechanism drives me insane. If it is locked and you are stationary with a car in park and you try and open the door, it doesn't open and release automatically. You have to actually unlock it first, and it has been driving me nuts shooting this video because every time I have to get out of the car I forget. So that is a ridiculous thing. Automatic front windows. Actually all the windows are automatically up down, which is a nice feature on a car this cheap. We've got a decent enough gauge cluster, temperature sensors in the middle. with adjustable features. We can change the mode to show different things, which is now not working. I'm not sure why. Am I pushing the wrong button? I think I am. There we go. Right, so we can change the mode, show different information on the center dashboard. It's a basic TFT screen with no color in it or anything, but it's very functional. This is the centerpiece in terms of technology, a full touchscreen infotainment system, which unfortunately, as is expected, quite slow and laggy, but it does the job. And again, we have to remember that this is a 51,000 real car. We've got Bluetooth, we've got USB, we've got standard FM radio, but it does the job. It also doubles up as the reverse camera, as you've seen before. So reverse camera is a nice thing. The buttons for the AC controls are down here. AC and HVAC controls are all down here. They're fine. Actually, they're quite nice. They've got a decent pushback. They actually feel surprisingly expensive compared to the rest of the car. The AC is actually really good, though. I haven't driven this car in summer, and when it cracks 50 degrees, that's when you really start testing how well an AC works. You can see the controls on the front screen, on the big screen as well, and you can control them from there, I believe. Yes, you can. So all round, nice features for a car this price. And this is, as we said, the tech is always going to be the best part of this car. Chinese and even Japanese and Korean manufacturers have been putting a lot of tech in that you get without any extra cost into their cars. We've got a 4-speaker sound system that is, I guess, adequate. Again, it's not great. The quality isn't great, and this is what you're going to get for this price of this car. I'm not sure why is the weird steering wheel wobbling like that. That's not great. These are the kinds of things that you find when you drive the car around a little bit more. Seats are comfortable enough. I struggled with my driving position. I'm not 100% comfortable. I'd like to be a little bit up straighter in this car. So I struggled a little bit with my driving position. The steering wheel adjusts for height but not rake, which is another problem. If I could have pulled it out by maybe half an inch, I would have felt a lot better. All round materials are cheap, plasticky, but the car is cheap and plasticky. But it does the job, and for what you're paying for it, it's really not a bad interior. Rear legroom, we'll go and have a look at in a moment. You do get a rear AC, which is another good feature to have in a car in this segment. If you're going to have children sitting in the back in the middle of summer, you're going to need that kind of thing. Rear space, it's actually really light and roomy here. This high headliner means that I've got plenty of headspace. I've got knee room in front of me, and the seats in my driving position, and I'm about 6 foot, and I fit in the back here really, really comfortably. Adjustable headsets for 3 seats. There we go. And we have some cup holders here when you're only 2 of you. We've got this soft leather, fake leather insert over here on the door, which actually feels really nice compared to the very hard plastics that we have on the sill. But again, not a bad little car in the back. Our rear AC vent doing the job. In the model up from this, we have a sunroof, which I think will improve things even better. But on the whole, this is a really light, airy cabin because of this really high rear. We've got our own reading lights over here that we can control on and off, and the headliner feels okay, but it's all round not bad. So all around visibility is pretty good. The pillars, the A pillars and C pillars are not huge. We have quite a small pillar box window, so you actually really need these big rear wing mirrors to be able to see out for cars behind you and maneuvering in traffic. But all round does the job. Again, would I buy it? Probably not. Driving with the windows open is a real privilege once we hit winter here in Qatar. Unfortunately, as I've noticed with its big brother as well, as soon as you go over 60 kilometers an hour, it starts buffeting really badly. You have to keep the window around half open, otherwise it makes a hell of a racket, and it's just not viable, which is really disappointing, to be honest. We're here in the Lusail Marina area to test this car in its natural home, the inner city. And here's where it does shine the best. Light steering, comfortable ride, reasonable road holding. Does obviously understeer if you push it because it's front wheel drive, but for the most part it's really, really comfortable driving around town. It's still challenged by its really, really poor power delivery, because you kind of want to be able to accelerate out of roundabouts or junctions and get out of the way of Land Cruisers. So it is still struggling under power, but for the most part, it's actually a really good little car to drive around the city. Easy to park, maneuverable, small turning circle, light steering, wallows a bit in the corners, but that's also to be expected. That's what makes it comfortable. So it's just lacking in power. It just doesn't go. I've got my foot flat. Nothing is happening. Won't even gear down. It's just really, really slow. So in conclusion, if you are looking for a cost-effective, high-riding car for in and around the city and the odd motorway cruise, this is a really, really good prospect. The only thing that bothers me, and will always do so, is how underpowered it is. It's almost dangerously underpowered. And I don't think that driving it in a city like Doha, where you need to be able to occasionally accelerate out of trouble, it's a good idea. That being said, if you're a cautious driver and you tend to live in the slow lane and you don't have to get out of the way of the Land Cruisers that often, it could still be a really, really good prospect. For 51,000 reals, you get an awful lot of tech, you get a lot of options that are standard with it, you get reasonable ride quality, you get maneuverability around town, you get all of these things that you would need from a small crossover at a very competitive price point. 10,000 reals, probably under the nearest equivalent competitor. And you're not getting the kind of features that you are in those cars that you're getting in this one. So, would I buy it? No. Would I recommend it to somebody who expects less from the actual driving experience? Yeah, maybe. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel and drop us a comment below in what you would like to see in the next video, or maybe 3 or 4 from now. And it doesn't have to just be cars, it can be stuff as well. We're hoping to have something new and considerably more powerful and sporty for the next video, but that we will have to see in the new year how that pans out. We will be taking a break for Christmas. Stay tuned for a video update of what the plans are for next year. Thanks again for watching.